Senator Rice. Senator Lyons.
Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy President. I am very proud of our democratic system. It's open and transparent and free from corruption, so much so that we take it for granted. In many parts of the world, our democracy and our electoral processes are envied. Australia has assisted newly emerging democracies with their electoral systems. In recent times, we supported Timor-Leste with the establishment of open, fair and transparent systems, including their electoral system. As a country, we have not shied away from calling out countries who don't have open and fair electoral systems. This has included bans in the case of South Africa in the old apartheid days, and more recently Iran. We have, as a Commonwealth country, called other countries to account and called into question their election results, and in the case of Zimbabwe, agreeing with other Commonwealth countries to their suspension from the Commonwealth Group. As well as calling out countries to account, we have assisted to ensure that democratic processes are established. On a recent parliamentary delegation to Zimbabwe, I was impressed to see that Australia had assisted with their very efficient Hansard service. I'm sure our own clerks in this place assisted with the training of Zimbabwe Hansard staff, and despite that country having a very, very long way to go in terms of real democracy and open and fair elections, they at least have an accurate and efficient Hansard system, again thanks to Australia. I am, for the term of this parliament, part of the Australian delegation to the Inter-Parliamentary Union, the IPU. The IPU is the International Organisation of Parliaments. It was established in 1889. The IPU is the focal point for worldwide parliamentary dialogue and works for peace and cooperation among peoples and for the firm establishment of representative democracy. There are 167 member countries and 10 associate members. At the last meeting in October in 2015, we had a wide-ranging debate on parliamentary processes which add to transparency. Once again, some of our parliamentary processes, particularly Senate estimates and the Parliamentary Budget Office established by Labor, were the envy of many, many IPU member countries. Of course, this doesn't mean that we shouldn't review our own processes, including how MPs and senators are elected. But any reform must be open and transparent and have widespread support. Support from a cross-section of the Australian voting community. The Australian Labor Party recognises legitimate concerns about the laws governing the election of senators and the outcome of the half-Senate election in 2013. The unexpected outcome of the 2013 half-Senate election gave rise to concerns that the proportional representation system used in the Senate was broken and had become a problem. These concerns deserve an appropriate response. Unfortunately, the bill currently before the Senate is not an appropriate response to those concerns. If there is a problem with Senate voting laws, Labor believes that the appropriate response is for Parliament to deal with it through a considered, principled and transparent process. Such a process should involve all the parties and unaligned senators to develop a solution which enjoys support across the political system. The outcome must be and be seen to prioritise the democratic rights of the Australian people above all other interests, especially partisan self-interest. There can be nothing more important to public confidence in the Parliament than the integrity of laws which dictate who is elected to the House of Representatives and the Senate. The Commonwealth Electoral Amendment Bill 2016 absolutely fails this test. This bill was not the product of any principled and transparent parliamentary process. It is the tawdry outcome of a filthy deal between the Conservatives, the LNP government and the Greens. The government claims this bill implements the recommendations of the Joint Standing Committee on Electoral Reforms in its interim report on the conduct of the 2013 federal election, but this is simply not true. This bill is not the product of the JSCM recommendations. It is the product of a filthy deal cooked up behind closed doors by the Coalition and the Greens. And it's been interesting to listen to the debate tonight, particularly from the Green Party, because they haven't really gone to any details to outline what is so important about this bill. They've used glib comments, they've talked about matters that are more than 10 years old, but have not satisfactorily explained to the Australian voting public what it is that their dirty deal will deliver. The government, for its part, likes to say that this legislation at least implements the substance, or 85% of the JSCM recommendations, but that too is also not true. This bill is a rip-off of the JSCM recommendations, cooked up to serve the partisan interests of the Liberals, the Turnbull government and the Greens. And it should come as no surprise that the leader of the Greens, who said this just a day or two ago about student politics, he was the one that has done this dirty deal with the government. Senator Di Natale has the same view about student politics as many of the government members do, in fact probably all of the government members. Senator Di Natale said, "I wasn't interested in student politics," and he went on to say, "People in student politics seem more focused on the game of politics." This comment said by the leader of the Greens party, Senator Di Natale, could have been made by any Liberal National Party coalition member opposite. But this comment was made by Senator Di Natale, and it sums up the inadequacies of the Greens leader. It is student politicians and student unions who have been at the forefront of the fight against the Turnbull government's $100,000 degrees. Student unions have always been in the fight, whether it was the Vietnam War, the fight against the damming of the Franklin River, climate change, the list goes on. I'm proud to say that many Labor members, past and present, were leaders of student unions. Did the Greens leader, Senator Di Natale, sit back and let others do the fighting for his rights and entitlements while he was a student, whilst taking those hard-won student reforms for himself? To all of those students involved in student politics, take note. This is what the Greens really think. This is their view of you. This is the new direction under the leadership of Senator Di Natale. But back to the dirty deal. In a complex electoral system such as proportional representation system that we use to elect senators, even minor changes can have a dramatic impact with serious unintended consequences. And we've already seen that with initial poor drafting of the bill. The filthy deal cooked up between the Liberals and the Greens is not designed to serve the democratic interests of the Australian people or ensure their will is reflected in the composition of the parliament. The purpose of this legislation is to maximise the number of senators elected by the major parties such as the Liberal Party and established minor parties such as the Greens political party and the new named Nick Xenophon team. It is designed to exhaust preferences early so independents and so-called micro-parties are deprived of votes. Its object is to prevent new players from entering the Senate, thereby entrenching the electoral dominance of existing players. The principal beneficiary of this new voting system will be the Liberal Party. The Liberal Party's motivation for supporting this legislation is to achieve lasting electoral dominance in the Senate, to get their mandate that they think they have as part of the ruling class, to rule over and to bring in draconian laws that hurt ordinary working Australians. So they want to achieve dominance as a Conservative party and over time hope to maintain a lasting Senate majority in their own right. Senator Xenophon sees this as his best chance to increase his own representation in this place, in particular through corralling of his personally popular votes in South Australia. Of course, Labor believes that Green senators will pay a high price for this proposal. A double dissolution election based on this legislation will spell the end of their political careers, particularly Senator Hanson-Young and Senator Sims. Over time, Senator Xenophon will take both the seats from the South Australian Greens currently on hold in this chamber. They will be looking for new jobs, and Australians will be staring at a Senate controlled by the coalition. And what we've seen tonight in this place is that the Greens' gloves are well and truly off. We hear from some of the Greens, and in fact we've heard from their leader, how they purport to represent workers and trade unions in particular. Yet tonight in this place we heard Senator McKim's having a real go at the ACTU. He had a go on a number of occasions, told them they'd taken their eyes off the ball. I'm not quite sure what he meant by that. And he also included the CFMEU in that broad sweep, and he used the term plural when he was talking about unions. So obviously it is much broader than the ACTU and the CFMEU. He went on further to accuse the ACTU and the CFMEU from wasting members' money. And why is that? Because for once the gloss is off the Greens, and they're feeling the heat from ordinary working Australians, hard-working union members who are well and truly mystified that a party that purports to represent and look after the interests of trade unions is doing exactly the opposite, because there's a real danger in this place that we go to a double D and we will see the ABCC legislation, which the Greens have pretended to be opposed to, get up in this place and severely treat a section of the trade union movement, a section Senator McKim tonight thought it was absolutely okay to have a go at, not once but twice, to have a go at the CFMEU, that will treat them and their members as different. They will be treated differently. The laws in that bill are worse than, are harsher than what we use for terrorism in this country. And that's what the Greens have signed up to, because Senator McKim let it absolutely slip tonight that that is his real view of unions. So first of all, we have the leader, Senator Di Natale, joking around and saying that student politics is nothing but a game, Well, I'm presuming when Senator Di Natale was at university, he used all of those student services. Student services hard won by student unions, and yet he accuses them of playing games. Now, I don't know where he was when the Labor Party was out there fighting against $100,000 degrees, when we visited campuses, as we do right across this country, when we went to O-Days, when we absolutely supported student unions through and through. I don't know where he was when those same student unions were copping absolute flack from the Abbott-Turnbull government because they were standing up to the $100,000 degrees. And this is the group that Senator Di Natale accuses of playing games. What a disgrace, because student unions have been in the forefront of the fights against the Abbott-Turnbull government, and not just on issues of concern to students while they're at universities. They've been out there on issues such as climate change. But all of that seems to have passed Senator Di Natale by, as he accuses student unions of just playing a game of politics. Well, they play a real role, and they have been at the forefront of those fights. And obviously Senator Di Natale doesn't respect that, and what we've heard tonight from Senator McKim is that he doesn't respect trade unions. He stood in this place and twice had a go at the umbrella group, the ACTU, had a go at them. How disgraceful is that? Had a go at them and accused them of wasting money. And why is that? Because the Greens are feeling the heat from trade union members, from organised labour in this country. They are feeling the heat because they've sold out. And no doubt the Greens will start feeling the heat from student unions, who the Greens leader accused of just playing games, of not being real about politics. It shows again how out of touch the Greens are to make those comments. As I said, their gloves are well and truly off. We are now seeing the true Greens that don't support trade unions, that absolutely don't, and certainly don't seem to support student unions. You don't have the leader of your party accuse student unions of playing games, of political games, and the rest of you have got to fall into line about that. That's what happens if you're a true political party. Your leader's spoken, so that's what you all now think. And of course we saw that Senator Di Natale went even further when he outlined the ultimate goal for moving the Greens to the right, which was to form government with Conservatives. He certainly did not rule that out. Very pleased to say that he and his Green colleagues, so not just himself, the whole party, these people who can talk the talk but certainly can't walk the walk, not when it comes to trade unions, not when it comes to student politics, they do not walk the walk. And now the senator's on the record as saying he would never say never about one day forming a coalition with the Liberal Party. So the gloss is off, our eyes are well and truly open. This is now what they stand for. They stand accused of maligning trade unions that they used to support under previous leaders, and accuse students of playing politics. And now they're ready. Well, we know they've jumped into bed with the government, but now they're ready to assume some kind of formal relationship with a Conservative government, because they are so desperate. They are so desperate to find a place for themselves. Any place will do, and certainly their leader, Senator Di Natale, who must be feeling the heat from Senator McKim and Senator Whish-Wilson, who are kind of biting at the heels of the leader because they all want to be leaders, to say that he would never rule out forming a coalition with the Liberal Party. And of course, Adjunct Associate Professor of Politics at Monash University, Sean Carney, said in an opinion piece published, and I quote, he said, Senator Di Natale has to be kidding. Your politics are defined as much by what you refuse to support as by the things that you propose. Politicians are supposed to say never. That's why people support them. This is particularly so for the Greens, whose supporters are especially purist, and we've heard that in here tonight, especially purist on things such as open borders, the undesirability of all military action, giving security agencies more power, and coal. So, of course, once they form their much closer relationship with the LNP, those policies will have to go by the wayside. They'll just disappear. And it is appropriate to say never, and to actually talk the talk and walk the walk, to be who you say you are, not pretend, not to stand in this place and have a go at trade unions and student politicians, and for your leader to make comments that he wants to one day be in a coalition with the Liberal government. I mean, what do the Greens stand for? Well, the dirty deal says it all. and Senator Di Natale's leadership is in stark contrast to that of Senator Bob Brown, the former senator, and indeed Christine Mill. This is a dirty deal. The Australian voting public will see it for what it is. It's a dirty deal and it shouldn't pass.
Thank you, Senator Lyons.